Right then, guys, welcome to the Real Pod. Right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Pod. Today's guest, we have a local entrepreneur. He's a highly respected and renowned dog trainer and also a blue belt in BJJ. Can I welcome Matt to the show?
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Hi, Matt, you okay? How's things?
This is a bit surreal. First podcast ever. I was just saying I'm going to get ready for Rogan.
First one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you've done some before.
No, first one.
I was going to ask you that actually moved along, but yeah, so it's another first one for us. What a few firsts, haven't we?
Yeah. Hopefully, if one of you guys goes to the next level, we started.
We were the first ones.
We were the first
You
ones.
heard it here first, guys. So, Matt, obviously, like we do with a lot of our guests, we sort of take them back to the roots where it started from, your journey. Where would you like to start from? School, primary school, high school?
I think
Where do your entrepreneurship come from?
Primary school's probably
School,
the place to go. And really, I guess my first memory of that was probably 5 years of age. Parents have just been called into school. I get pulled into a room and get told off by the teachers. I've been on holiday to America and I bought a grow your own crystal kit, right? So it's like a powder, some liquid, pour the things together, put it on a rock and these crystals grow up.
Okay.
So I've done that, knocked all the crystals off, put them in my pocket, took them to school, and I'm selling them to all my classmates. And I've got a notepad with all their debts in it. So I've got Johnny at 5.
Wow.
Johnny owes me a 5. Anyway.
Who's the enforcer?
So what happened? One of the kids told his dad that he owed me £2. So his dad come to me to give me the £2 and then told the teacher. And that was it. And I guess that was the first bit of me making money trying to graft, and also the first time that I got told that I couldn't do it.
Because of school and teachers.
Yeah, man. And I look back at it now and think, why would you tell a kid not? Why would you crush that spirit of trying to go? And then I guess, I hope my mum and dad don't see this, but then that kind of thing carried on through my life. I remember coming home 10, 12, 15, going, Dad, I've got this amazing business idea. And my dad, as supportive as he was, would go, yeah, but if it was any good, someone else would have done it already.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that that's why I've ended up doing everything, trying to prove that these ideas are good and then kind of bringing it through from there. So, yeah, caught selling stuff at school at 5, got told not to. Then did the normal stuff, selling cigarettes for 10p a go and all the other jazz. Mobile, what was those first Matrix flip phones?
Yeah.
Selling them like
Nokia's.
50 quid. Did a bit of that, car CD players, that sort of thing.
Nice.
Got to 12, 4 paper rounds morning and night every day.
Wow.
Grafted. All I wanted was to buy a car. So I bought my first car when I was 16 and then spent a year polishing it. I couldn't drive it.
What was it? What did you buy?
It was a Citroen AX GT.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
I do.
What is it? GT?
It was like a Citroen Saxo, but before that, it was like a bean can. 1.4 engine, fastest car you could get on a low insurance group. It was cool, man. In fact, I've just been looking at buying one to like restore it and do it up. So
are they going cheap or are they expensive?
No,
cheap.
Mad money.
Are they?
Like, yeah.
Are they classics?
Yeah, they're going that way. And I guess they appeal to people from that era who've now got money. So we can pay for them, I suppose, if we want one, can't we? Yeah, so doing these paper rounds, managed to blag my way into the best paper rounds that were going. So Christmas had come and my tips would be unbelievable. I'd get 250 quid in tips just off one round. Like I'd ride around the poshest estate, dropping off the newspapers, picking up the £20 from the envelopes. Made loads of money doing that. And then basically left there straight to work. And within, I don't know, I guess.
What was your first job?
First job, so I was doing, let me think of the full title of it because it sounded dead important, but it was shit. Car parts, manufactured, distribution and supply
Agent
or something like that. But it was actually working in a truck company and we used to sell like start motors and wheels and stuff to the mechanics. Like a main dealership, I guess, for BMW.
Yeah.
They've got the sales and then they've got the mechanics and you take your BMW in and they are asking for parts off the main dealer and that was what we did. So I did 2 or 3 years of that as an apprentice, got my apprentice, but got so fed up of working weekends. And the good thing in the commercial vehicle trade is if you want to go into sales and you're selling the vehicles, no one buys trucks on Saturdays and Sundays, right? It's all Monday to Friday. So I was like, I need to jump out of selling these parts, get into selling the vehicles, get on the commission, start making some proper money. And
there's more money as well. I was just going to say,
yeah. So I blagged my way into it, really.
Well done, though.
blagged my way over. Very quickly became top salesman within the country. Then fell out with my boss because I was better than him. Well, that's my opinion on it. Anyway, he actually, my original boss finished, and a new boss came in, and he was really annoyed. I had I must have been 21, probably 40, 50 grand a year, driving a Lexus IS 220.
Yeah.
Like the second Lexus. Driving one of them, he came in and he inherited a Volkswagen Golf as his company car. So he was straight away pissed off because I'm rolling around at like
in a Lexus,
21 in this Lexus. And I'm working on the doors at the same time, right? So I'm grafting in the day, then rocking up on nightclubs in Nottingham in my Lexus at 21.
Very nice.
Working the front door as well. I'm not inside that. I'm on the front door and I'm just rocking up in this car outside. I thought I'm an absolute gangster. And this boss at work's really, really pissed off at me because you've got a shit car, he's not selling anything. And basically, the department as a whole, we weren't doing very well, but I was smashing it. So I was getting vouchers to go on holiday to Barbados and all sorts of stuff from the manufacturer. He's doing not very well. And instead of him going out and trying to sell, he's making spreadsheets on why we're failing.
Yeah.
And then he tries to scapegoat me, so he gets me in for a disciplinary because I've got a bit of an attitude and he's telling me how to do stuff and I'm disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
I went in for a disciplinary. I don't know if I can say this. If she watches it, I'll get in trouble. I went in for a disciplinary. Basically, the head of HR is sat on his side of the table, and he's saying stuff to me, and she can see me getting, and she's kicking me under the table, going, "Matt, don't
bite.
Don't say that. Don't bite. Just stay as you are." Anyway, the next day he gets sacked, and then I get offered his job, and then we're off again. But because of all of this going on and the way that I didn't feel like they'd support me, I'd already decided I was leaving. So I tapped up a customer who had a van sales company, and he was trying to sell vans as well, but he wasn't doing very well. And I basically said, "Jim, look," in fact, there's a story about how I met him. I was like, "Jim, look, you're shit at selling vans. I'm good at selling vans. Why don't I come and do it with you?
Yeah.
And I've got 10 grand. I'll come and put that in." And that was the start of a relationship which kind of grew and went on, and I learnt lots from him. I met him originally. I was so desperate to sell vans and do deals that I went to him, and he was a successful businessman, and basically I was trying to sell him a van that he didn't want to buy. So in the end, he went, I'll do it on a toss of a coin. So I think the cost price of this van was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
And he was like, "If you win, I'll give you 11. And if I win," he wins, he was only going to pay 9 grand for the van, which would have meant I'd have had to put a grand out of my own pocket. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Anyway, I won, luckily, because I didn't have the money really. And it was the start of a massive relationship. Then it ended up in me going to business with him. And so I guess I've always been a bit of a risk taker and spot these opportunities. But he's done it so many times since then where he just, on ridiculous amounts of money and different deals and bets, and he toss a coin. What, Jim, you can't do that. I remember he did one.
He must be very old school. It's got to be. 'Cause I know a guy who does that as well. Because if you can't come to an agreement in the end, he'll just say, "Do you know what? You've got any money in?" Right, let's toss a coin.
Yeah. Just toss a coin.
I couldn't do it.
Mental, and he's done it in all sorts of different situations that he shouldn't have done it in. And he's done it, and it's paid off for him. I think pretty much every time. I was probably the only person who beat him, but it worked. It went good now.
So so once you've gone into partnership, did you do, because you did an apprenticeship, was that before you'd open up this business then with Jim?
Yeah. So I did the apprenticeship.
Was that at the garage?
That was at the garage.
Before.
And I kind of moved internally within the garage. So I was selling the parts for the trucks and the vans. Then I moved into their sales department for actually selling the trucks and the vans rather than the parts. And then because I was selling the vans, I met Jim.
Yeah.
And then Jim was trying to sell vans. I was like, "You shit. Let me get involved." And we
And this is still in Nottingham.
That's
You're still in Nottingham.
Yeah, still in Nottingham. And we had a good business. I mean, he did very well. I think life goes round in circles, doesn't it? Right. So then he made absolute fortunes off me, and I was earning like £1,250. So I was like running this business.
Yeah.
Put 10 grand into it. I was taking like 1,250 quid a month and driving a highways Renault traffic van. But I learned so much. So he, you could argue he took advantage.
Yes.
However,
I'm
glad he took advantage because I learned so much from him. He had such good ethics and morals in business. So he was very much, I can't say they've all stuck with him, but he was very much like, if you can't afford it, don't buy it.
Yes.
So I was like, Jim, let's put like 50 vans on the forecourt. We'll get this financing from Bank of Scotland. And he was like, no, if we can't afford it, we're not doing it, which I guess is fine for him because he wasn't trying to get the money, was he? He'd already made it. One other funny story about Jim, actually, I took him to, when I was working for the dealership, I got invited on a Bentley experience day. I thought, who am I going to take? Most of my customers are Jim's nice. Rings Jim up. Jim, do you want to come on this Bentley experience day? So he says, yeah. He said, I'll come and pick you up. He was driving a Mercedes CLS, I think it was. Was that the, like, coupe?
Is that the barber's car that they usually call? Is that what you're talking about?
It looked a bit like a banana, like it was a...
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes,
like,
I know what you mean, yeah.
He
still carry that shape on, haven't they? It's maybe smaller, not as long.
Yeah, so he was driving one of those and he come and picked me up. And on my way down there, he's going, Matt, I don't really know why we're going on this day. I'm sure it'd be really good, but this Merc does everything that a Bentley can do.
Yeah.
He's like, it's got the electric windows, heated seats, moves forwards and backwards, everything. On the way home, he's on the phone buying himself a Bentley, like literally just bought himself a Bentley. And he used to also do classic cars, not storage, movement. Like you'd ring him up and go, I've got this classic Ferrari I've just bought and I want it taken from there to wherever. Yeah. Jim would go and pick him up in a like a covered trailer.
Yes, yeah.
Pick him up and he'd move these cars, and he must have bought now. He was working for Bentley off the back of this day out, and so they'd get a part exchange coming or something, and then he'd just buy another one, and so this guy who never wanted a Bentley, whose Bentley couldn't do anything that his Mercs could do, and then
upgraded on Bentleys.
Buying Bentleys
number one
left,
customer.
right, and centre. But I just remember looking at him in life and his ability to just get what he wanted. He had an old Willis Jeep, which was like a World War II Jeep. Just like this old mad Jeep.
Yeah.
Like all in army colours and stuff. It was like 25 grand, and I couldn't get my head around how this guy had got a 25 grand car that he didn't even drive.
Just parked up.
Just parked up. But Jim got up to all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah,
and
fingers in different pies.
I mean, he must be, I'm going to guess he's like 75 now. I haven't spoken to him for a little while. Although he sent me a Happy New Year message. But my memories of him from like 5 years ago was still, it's like being out with one of your mates. He was like 25. And
so you still indirectly keep in touch then? You still keep in touch
I'm
on
kind
and
of
off?
friends with his partner on Facebook, and we talk a little bit. And I bought my truck off him.
That's nice
like
though,
5 or
because
6
people lose
years ago.
touch over time, don't they?
If I wanted to buy a car tomorrow, I'd be on the phone to Jim going, Jim, I'm after this. And he'd sort it out. So we don't talk that much. I should spend more time talking to him. He's getting on a bit now.
We might utilise that somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
No, because I'm sure along the way you probably you gained a relationship between yourselves. Obviously now you're partners as well, and he's sort of mentoring you, took you under his wing, if you like.
Absolutely.
So obviously, in a sense, it's obviously all your own hard work. Don't get me wrong, but it's them ethics and them sort of the advantage, let's say, he took of you.
Yeah, and
allegedly,
and being pushed in the right direction.
Yes, ultimately
kept on the straight and narrow. Jim, we with this transport company we'd have, so we'd like go and buy some cars at auction, and then we're going to go and pick them up. But because he's got his transport company, he'd be like, Matt, we're going at 3:30 in the morning on Saturday.
Yeah.
Be at work ready 3:30, and so it stopped me going out. Do you know what I mean? Like it kept me on the straight and narrow because I couldn't, and I didn't want to let him down. So he was like a good role model. Kept me going, and so he did do very well out of me financially. Yeah. In the end, I remember when I finished, I kind of, which I guess we'll get to in a minute, but I moved on to something else. Decided I had enough of that. And spoke to him about it, and I'd put 10 grand in originally, and probably 3 or 4 years' work, and walked out with 12.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So I kind of that first business, I guess I invested 10 grand in it, worked 3 years, and came out with 12. It wasn't the best investment, but certainly in terms of life.
Life experiences, business, ethics.
Really learned a lot, and got a lot of confidence. From being able to go and buy something and flip it and sell it and make some money, and that's always been my thing with making money. Is if I can buy it for that, and I reckon I can sell it for that,
why not?
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll do it. It's a deal worth.
Yeah, and that's where you can't put a price on, can you?
No,
the experience,
no,
the lessons you learned, whatever you learned yourself along the way and
Yeah.
taught yourself, you can't put a price on that though.
No, not all.
it's like sparring and training in it.
Yeah, and I think that just carries on.
Naturally, then
I look through the rest of my life then and go, all the other people who've had input, and I don't know. I think people look. I wouldn't think twice about spending 10 grand on a course to go and learn how to do something that might allow me to make 30.
Yeah,
Yes.
It doesn't have got to be massive. It's just got to be a good investment, and I'll spend the money and I'll go and have a crack at it. And certainly all those hours I spent with Jim, driving along in his truck with him, just talking stories from when he was young. They used to nick. When he was a lad, they used to nick copper piping from the railway yards. We used to get up to all sorts of stuff.
and stuff. Yeah.
just make money.
Yeah.
How long were you with Jim at this place then?
I think it got to be, I'd say in total, probably 5 years from kind of like first really starting to mix with him. Because when I was still working and he was my customer, I spent all of our time over there anyway.
Yeah.
I just used to like tell work I was going out to see customers. I just go and see Jim. I just go and see Jim, and then probably five years in total. I would say.
Why and what age did you leave? So you'd be
So I'd have been.
Well, would you
Let
been
me just
roughly?
get my dates on this. So where am I now?
Surely not that old, Matt.
38 now. Been doing this one for 10 years. So 28, 25. I reckon 25. Yeah, so 4 or 5 years with Jim. Got there like 2021.
Yeah,
Stayed with him till 24, 25 and then moved on.
because when you were 21, you were on 40, 50 grand.
Yeah,
I can't get over that. I can't-
smashing it. But
you weren't really learning much the way. The money was there, but
wasn't
I don't
learning,
think you were gaining
wasn't
anything.
learning and was not enjoying it.
Yes.
Which is why
the money was not the money's not the be all and end all. Yeah, you chase the money,
100%.
but
I agree with you.
if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then it's not going to be good. And
Eventually you just
I just didn't like the people I was working with. I didn't like the vans were shit. I had no trust in the product. I remember taking this van to sell it. The first one I ever took to sell someone, really successful company, was a roofing guy, pulled up at his yard, got out the van, went to open the side load door, and the door fell off. Like I swung the door and the door just slid straight off, and I still sold it because I was a good salesman.
It sounds like listening to an episode of Only Fools and Horses.
Mate, it was awful. But I still sold in the van. And I was just like, why am I selling this? And I remember actually the thing that made me go to Jim was I just wanted to sell Ford Transit vans. That was it. I wanted to sell a product that I could trust. And we were selling LDV vans, which I think have gone bust now, have they?
Possibly.
I think they went bust. I was selling LDV vans, and I just didn't trust the product, didn't trust the management, didn't like the management.
So you found your way out.
Just needed to get out and
Good man.
do my own thing, and so that's what I did with Jim. And then I guess a similar thing kind of happened. We didn't have the fallouts, but things changed a little bit in the dynamics there, and I'd started getting involved in dogs.
Why?
Why did I get involved in?
And just before we go, while you had the business with Jim, then, so you've been in about 5 years, then 2021 till about 25 years old. When you finished with Jim. While you were with Jim at five years, give or take, are you still running your business with him and still working the doors like you used to? Had you packed that in then?
No,
so you got two jobs then.
Yeah, still got.
Yeah,
two
I want
jobs.
to point that out.
You work the doors too, right?
Yeah. No, I've took a step back now. Yeah,
okay,
but yeah.
right. But it's not like working though, is it? Like,
You're not supposed to say
you're
that.
not
You're
allowed
exposing the industry now.
What are you doing here?
But it's not like working, is
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're getting paid. You're getting paid to
It's
go
like through the night, you might not do nothing, but that one thing might,
make
and
it
that's
up
what
for
you're there
everything,
for.
Yeah, absolutely. But sorry, I didn't mean it like.
No.
It's a
No.
laugh.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I'm
it's
gonna have all
going
my
out.
clients ringing me Monday saying, listen,
We don't want
take your
you
stuff off the doors. We don't need you.
You'll have to edit this bit out as well. But it's like going to the club with your mates
Yeah.
and not getting a hangover.
I know what you're saying.
Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
enjoy
Like,
the
I
music.
get it.
Yeah.
Banter with
You
your lads,
go and enjoy it.
camaraderie.
And so I never really saw it as a
As
job.
work,
And
yeah.
let's face it, if I hadn't been working on the doors, I'd have been out in the club spending my money.
Spending
Exactly.
it.
And so it worked. And I've just come back from Tenerife and I met a friend out there. It was me and my girlfriend. Then we bumped into a friend, and he was talking about how quiet I was and how I didn't used to like going out. And Naki knows what I'm like now, although I'm calming down a bit. But I didn't used to like going out and drinking and that sort of thing. And he was like, Anna, Matt was so quiet, and I'd forgotten all about that. But I just used to.
But that was your focus at the time. Was about
money,
juggling business, money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I used to go. I mean, I remember lads. I remember lads on the doors, and they literally just come on the doors just to go and meet women, right? And
you can say that. Don't be shy.
It just never. That was never it for me. Like, don't get me wrong, it happened, but that wasn't the reason I was there. I was there to support the rest of the team and do my job. You get other people who would turn up and they weren't there to do the job at all. They were just there.
AKA shit fillers.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. And I imagine it's worse.
I was going to say now.
We had a good team of lads. We used to take on clubs that were kind of, would it have been called Red Alert with the police or something? I can't remember what they called it, but it's like
problematic pubs.
They'd had a number of I remember going to one in Rotherham and a shotgun had been let off on the door and different stuff was going on and we'd go in as a team, but we were probably average age, I would say, 23, 24.
Wow,
we weren't
team.
old, young team, but solid best mates.
Yeah.
All of it,
each
best mates.
And
we had some real good times, and in fact, Lee who runs it, which was my boss's son at the time, best mate at 18, and we had some right good laughs together. We still talk, and he rings. He's like, "Won't you just do your badge and just come back?" And I'm like, "Mate, life's changed, and I'd do it for a laugh.
A laugh, I was just gonna say,
but I don't want to do it as a job. I don't want to have to go every weekend." And
who is it in Nottingham? Do you mind me asking?
So we used to do a few things. So it was Pete Neelan and Lee Neelan were the main family that I worked with. Chris Bailey, Bridgegate Security.
Okay,
probably
Bridgegate,
probably a name that you'll know. So we used to do a lot of subbing out to Chris. But yeah, so Pete Neelan, Prozac Security. Although I think it might change names now.
Okay,
nice.
But yeah, it was good times, real good times, and I would go back for the odd. For the
laugh,
but
banter.
I guess as you get older, you look at it, don't you, and go, is it worth the risk?
Especially nowadays with the
Not
knives.
now you wouldn't.
Exactly. Is it worth the risk for the reward, or would it be better just going to see me dressing up nicely, go and see me mate, and just stand with him while he's on the door and not have to?
Yeah, no, that's weird.
But I don't think you can ever get that mentality out. Something happens, you're in, aren't you?
You're going to get involved anyway, aren't you? So if obviously, like you just put it, life's good, things are flowing nicely. You've got a business, you're in partnership with Jim, fantastic, because you've all gone better and better, haven't you? So you moved on from that job, from the car garage. You've got an apprenticeship behind you. You started doing business with him. You're learning. You do your weekends. So as much as you don't go out, but it's your social time with friends, banter, and have a scrap out of it if you can as well. Then what happened? Why leave Jim? You've got a business. Money's ticking. You're getting paid. I know it might not have been the best, maybe, but I think there's other perks in there and always business. So why?
I think in life you get your passions change. And you change where your focus is, and different things become important. And I'd always been an animal lover, like all my life. So my parents will tell stories of. I used to work at a stables, and I'd come home with like a baby goat under my jumper, and not tell anyone. I'd smuggle this goat into the house because it needed looking after. And I just mental. I used to breed. I bought 4 mice, and ended up with like 28. They were all girls. They were all girls, but they were pregnant from the shop. So
you're reminding me of that Bad Boys 2 scene now. They're up in the attic.
The rats,
the mama rat and the papa rat.
Mum and dad are like, you've got to take these these baby mice to the pet shop. I'm like, no, because they'll feed them to the snakes. We've got to keep them. And so we literally had the back room at the house was just full of cages, full of mice everywhere. I bought 2 canaries, and I must have kept mum in the shop for like 3 hours because all I wanted to do was breed these canaries. And because I was like 7 at the time. We sat in the shop, and the only way you know a male canary from a female one is a male sings. So we sat in this shop, and there's all these canaries, and they're all singing, and you're trying to work out, but you've got to get the right one caught. Anyway, so I got these canaries, ended up with hundreds of them. Like, and I've always been.
Did you breed them, or did you kept buying? You mean?
No. So we just kept breeding them.
Okay.
But you live and learn. Don't you? I left them all outside one year in a cage outside. They all froze to death. Like you live and learn as you go, and you make especially when you're 7.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
The first time the canaries had had babies, I was in the Scouts or Cubs. I don't know what it had been at that time. We'd been out on church parade. I come back from church parade, and I'd noticed that these canaries are like picking up bits of sticks and stuff. So I'd got a like a Coca-Cola bottle, cut the bottom off it, made like a nest box.
Oh, yeah.
Put it inside. Anyway, a few weeks later, we've been at church parade, come back, go in, and there's an egg in this nest. And I'm like, no way. I convinced my brother or my dad had got a Cadbury's mini egg. That's what it looked like.
Stitch you up.
And put it in there. I was like, they're having me on. Next day, there's another one. Next day, there's another one. And ends up with these... with these canaries. And then I went through it with tropical fish and breeding them. Anything.
It's more about breeding and keep the cycle going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know what it was really that fascinated me with, maybe it's just I love who knows? But yeah,
this is 18 episodes.
I just didn't want to say that out loud.
That was strike 3, 18 episodes.
But just like... there was obviously something there and an interest in animals. And I started riding horses when I was 9 or 10, but ended up riding at really quite a high level. Oh. Hit 18, women, alcohol, different stuff comes along. Horses took up too much time. Knocked that on the head and decided to get a German Shepherd, and I was going to train it for obedience competition. So I was kind of still interested in training animals. Knock the horses on the head because that took too much time and too much money. Get a puppy. I'll do it with that instead. So I bought this German Shepherd, and he was an absolute... Well, he wasn't a nightmare. He ruined my life for 5 years, basically, this dog. It was a nightmare. In hindsight, it was me that wasn't prepared for raising the dog, right? It wasn't the dog. The dog was just a dog. But life was terrible. So I've got all this money, nice company car, girlfriend, got my own house. Everything's going great. I know I'll introduce a dog. Brings this dog in. The dog's ripping the house to pieces. My parents can't come around because it's jumping all over everyone. All these different things. So I've got this dog, 5 years of hell, looking for different trainers. Finally find the right dog trainer who I guess became my second mentor. And literally he sorted the problems out overnight. So I went from 5 years of hell, spent loads of money trying to solve it.
Overnight.
Find this guy, bang, overnight, sorted. And that, to answer your question of why I left gym, the guy who helped me sort the dog out used to train essentially what you'd say it was like police type competition. So he wasn't a police officer, but he would train dogs for police type competition. So they'd track human scents, bite a criminal in a competition setting, and that sort of thing. And basically he'd sorted this dog out with me. I bought another one because I got into it, and then a police officer offered me $3,500 for the dog, and I thought,
interesting.
Maybe there's some money in this. and again, can I buy it for
X and
less
sell it for Y? Yeah,
and that was it. And so literally, I guess I'd done 3 or 4 months with Jim, where I was going into work every day, and I got 2 or 3 dogs in the back of the van with me. And at dinner, I was taking them out and training them. And basically, I just wanted to be training dogs instead of selling vans, and that was it. So I spoke to Jim. Jim, I've had enough. I want out. Can I have my money? And I walked out of there with 12 grand and I think 3 vans, which we hadn't sold.
Yeah, okay.
And I walked out of there and set up a dog training business with 2 friends in Lincolnshire, and ended up, they basically, it's mad really how it came about now, but they, and I'm not friends with them anymore, but they basically purchased a property for us to run this dog training. But now it's mental because I don't really remember there being any deep conversations about how the business would be set up or how the money would work or anything like that. It was literally, they just bought it and we just moved there.
Yeah.
And I bought this static caravan for $5,000, got the caravan to live in on this farm where they had bought the house. And I go out and buy some dogs, and we decide we're going to sell police dogs and personal protection dogs. And anyway, it lasted a week. So within a week, I fell out with them. And they've gone, you've got 7 days to leave. And I've got like 12 dogs now. So I've got 3 vans.
Wow.
3 vans, no money because I've spent it all on dogs. And I've got to go.
Because the property's theirs.
Property's there. Yeah, property's theirs. And we fell out. Basically, this goes back to the thing with the vans, this kind of trust in the product, right? So they were trying to buy a dog for 500 quid and sell it for 25 grand. And I was trying to buy a dog for 10 grand or 5 grand and sell it for 25 and make sure I'm supplying the products. And we just disagreed on it. And I don't think we were ever going to sort it. So they literally went, right, you've got 7 days to fuck off. And I was like, I've got all these dogs. Where am I going to?
Just out of curiosity, what did they ever carry it on, or did they just stop?
They haven't carried it on.
So they couldn't do it in a sense. Yeah. No, brilliant. Yeah, no, that was my point.
I think they turned the property turned into a boarding kennels, which I'm sure has made them some money, but not what it would have done if I'd have stayed with them.
Definitely.
Where was I? So they've said you've got 7 days to piss off, and I've got no money. I did have some money. I had £3,000 in cash, and then these 3 vans
and 12 dogs.
12 dogs. What did you do? So it got that bad. I spoke to my parents who live in a 3-bedroom semi-detached house, and Dad was like, "If you have to, you'll have to bring the dogs to the house, and we'll have to set up some kennels in the garage. I've got a double garage." I'm like, "Dad, I can't bring 12 dogs.
A lot of dogs, though. 12 dogs, mate.
It's a lot." So I was like, right, I've got to go. I've got to find somewhere. Let's see what's on the market. And that's what brought me over this way. So I found a house in Coates Heath.
Yes, yeah. Stafford way.
Yeah, found a house in Coates Heath. From memory, I think it was advertised for £2,000 a month. And I've got £3,000 to my name, right? These 3 vans. So I makes the inquiry, books it in. We travel over from Lincoln, which is like 3 hours away. Come over, and I just remember getting out of this van and getting my £3,000 in cash and sticking it, hanging out my back pocket. So I'm deliberately walking around the house with £3,000 hanging out my back pocket.
You're ready to sign. Yeah. Salesman trick there.
So I walk around the house, and this house is unbelievable. It's like 3 acres of land next to a mansion, like there's a castle next door to it.
Wow.
Real posh area. Unbelievable. Like, unbelievable.
The coach is very nice, yeah.
Real nice place in the middle of these posh houses, which would become the downfall of the whole thing. Anyway, so I've looked at it, and I bottled it, and I didn't have the guts to make an offer there and then, so I left. And then I emailed them or I rang them, and I went, "Look, I can't afford the £2,000 a month, but I can pay £1,000 a month, and I'll pay you 3 months up front." And he said, "Yeah."
Sorted.
So that was it. So £3,000 off. And we move in with these dogs and try and make a go of it. And that was the start of WKD. What at that point it was WKD working dogs, and we were selling protection dogs and dogs to the young adult dogs to the police for them to then turn into police dogs and that sort of thing. And the reason that property would become the downfall of it was so posh. You can imagine I've turned up in like a Ford Transit Connect van with scruffy jeans and 12 dogs into a real posh area. Yeah. And the next minute, we're dragging these dogs out of the kennels, and they're running up and down the field on a few acres, biting people in train. We're running around with sleeves on, getting nailed by these dogs. Meanwhile, you've got these posh, well-off families raising their kids in the garden next door, and they ended up kind of causing huge problems. And we tried to be quite diplomatic about it, and we went around and sat and had a chat with them. And they seemed like you know what people are like, real reasonable, face to face. You walk out the door, you get another letter from the council. Yeah. And so that carried on for a bit. They got the council involved. The council came out, did noise tests. Huge amount of stress that it created. And ultimately, the council went, "You're not doing anything wrong. Carry on. It'll be absolutely fine." Yeah. Said, "We'll take you to court privately." And at which point, I just couldn't. Well, it was my girlfriend at the time, really. She just couldn't cope. Like, the pressure was just too much. It was like being pushed out your own home.
Yeah.
And I remember that feeling of being pushed out of my own home. In hindsight, amazing, because I could never have done what I did with WKD from that property. Like the shove, I went online, found another place, and literally just went and moved into that place instead. Got rid of the first one, moved over there. At the time, it was horrible.
So where's this now? From Coates Heath?
This is in Yarnfield now.
Now you're going to Yarnfield, Stone.
So this is in Yarnfield. And we're over there, and everything's kind of good again, I guess. It wasn't the same. It wasn't as posh. It didn't feel as... it didn't feel like I'd made it as much, when I probably shouldn't have felt like I'd made it anyway at that point, because I hadn't. But it was a place without neighbours giving me problems. It was right next to the literally the M6 is there. So no noise problems because the motorway drowns out the noise. Nearest neighbour's 250 metres away and he's 80, so it doesn't really matter because he can't hear you anyway. And I set up WKD, I guess, 3 months after moving there. The girl I was with left. So I could have stayed in the posh house because it was only her that made me move. I could have just stayed the neighbours. But
Well, you know, when you went for coach seat, I'm just going back a bit if you don't mind me asking, because okay, you live in Nottingham originally, you moved to Lincoln, which isn't, well, it is, I suppose, still a couple of hours from Nottingham to Lincoln. Then from Lincoln, you're all the way down there on the map, and then you moved all the way to the Midlands.
yeah,
Like, was there nowhere else from Lincoln all the way to Stoke? Or
not within 7 days.
So it was a certain case of just whatever you can, within the budget you've got,
Yeah.
to make it work, to the
go?
12 dogs in you and so on, just whatever come up anywhere. So if it was even, as daft as it may sound, like 300 miles, we would have just gone in Hull and Birmingham, anywhere. London, you just gone and grabbed it. So a place again, a roof over your head. That was the aim.
That was the thing. Somewhere to make the business work from. And I've never
But you
really
see my point. Just it's a dramatic from then Lincoln all the way to Midlands.
And it's mad how people see it, isn't it? Because I'd move to Scotland tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. I'm not bothered. I am bothered where I live, but only in terms of resources.
Yes.
Like the hardest thing for me at the moment to move would be jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like, do I really want to?
Where will I be going?
I don't go to class much. Like I just turn up and roll. Am I going to get away with doing that in other places? Like, do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing where, because I'm a busy guy, it works for me where we train.
Yeah.
It's quite relaxed. I can turn up after class and just roll. Or
His big dog.
all right. Yeah, we know you've got a blue belt. All right,
no, but I just don't have time. And to be honest, I'm
It's
sure
gotta
we'll
fit
get,
in
I'm
your
sure we'll get
lifestyle,
onto
though.
jiu-jitsu. But I enjoy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
but I'm
of
not
course.
like some people are watching YouTube videos non-stop about it.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah,
I'm
you're busy
just not into it
running your
that much.
businesses and
I
stuff,
enjoy
yeah.
it. I like going. I like rolling. I like choking people. But I don't want to sit and watch it. Like I'm not obsessed by it.
Yeah.
And so people have different things, don't they? But that would be the hardest thing for me at the moment if I was to look to move. If I found the perfect property in the Lake District, I'd move tomorrow. The hardest part of that decision would be leaving the gym.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it doesn't, like I can find money elsewhere, find friends elsewhere to a point. And to be honest, I think if you're good friends, it doesn't matter whether you're living on Mars.
You'll always stay.
You're good mates, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so, it'd just be the gym. So no, it wasn't difficult
Okay.
moving. It was just needs must. That's the right place to go to. And I do regularly look at properties all over the UK. And I'd go to Devon tomorrow. It really doesn't matter to me. If it was a place I felt like was going to give me what
You need
I wanted,
fitted for your lifestyle.
then I'm gone.
So from coach seats, you're at Yarnfield now.
Yeah.
And as the dynamics of the business of the dog training changed then, so like I said, you originally did personal protection dogs,
Yeah, so
protection dogs overall. Now what are you doing then?
It changed. It's a bit hard remembering the timeline really, but it changed basically because the police were an absolute fucking nightmare to deal with, right? So, so the way this business would work, I'd get in my car, drive to Germany, look at 20 dogs, like young dogs, probably being raised for competition or something, not quite making the grade, a little bit rough around the edges, probably more suited to being on the street biting criminals. And
Are these like bloodline dogs?
Kind of, but doesn't really matter if they've got a pedigree or not. If it does the job, it can do the job, right?
Okay.
So you go and you get the dog. So I'd drive all the way out there with no money at this point, so I'm still on my arse. Spent me $3,000 on the rent, and I'm done, right, financially. So I'd drive out there, look at 3 or 4 dogs, blag the one that I thought had the best chance, and I'd blag it on buy now, pay later. Right? So I'd bring it back. And I remember that first trip I ever made out to Germany, I remember coming back, and because I couldn't afford to stop in a hotel, right? So I've gone all the way out, got the dog, and literally just driven home again. And I remember pulling up near Birmingham somewhere and just crying because I was falling asleep on the road, and I just needed. I just wanted to be in bed, and I remember sitting there and crying. Anyway, so that was kind of how that was going at that point. So I was buying these dogs, bringing them in, and then you'd get a police force. Would come and have a look at the dog. If they liked the look of it, they'd take it away, and they'd basically have it on a 3-month trial, right? So the police dog course is a 3-month course. They'd pick the dog up, they'd take it back, they'd start training it, And if it passed and became a police dog, they'd pay you your £3,500, right? So I was probably paying £1,000 to £1,500 a dog then, and they'd be paying me 3.5.
Yeah.
If it worked, but you're cash flowing them for 3 months.
Yes.
And then they started being fucking idiots. And so what you'd get is they'd ring you up and basically go, we're 10 weeks in, the dog's fucking amazing. However, yours is £3,500 and we've just been offered one for £500. You can have yours back.
Oh
right?
my God.
No contracts. No contracts.
Not of any level. And I guess I was the first attempt that I'm aware of to try and legitimise that side of the business. So when I made contact with all these police officers, I got made up flyers, and we did posters, and I used to make promotional videos for each of the dogs. And it was the first time that I'm aware that it had ever been done. And I really thought I'd be able to change the way it worked. And I thought, if I can get build up to 10 to 15 dogs in the kennels, all good quality, so-and-so force can come down, pick 2 or 3 dogs, because that's what they need, take them away. And if they have any problems whatsoever with those dogs, they can come back and swap them for another one that I've got. And the way it works, you tend to find that different police forces want slightly different things. So a dog, I don't want to cast aspersions on any areas now, but a dog working in X place might have to do a lot of biting.
Yeah.
And a dog working in Y place might have to do not a lot of biting and quite a lot of finding missing old people.
Yes.
And so what will work for one won't always work for the other. And so I kind of thought, well, this is going to be great because they can come and pick this dog up. If it's a bit soft, it can come back and go to there and swap it. But I just never managed to make it work. They were just, and you'd get things like coppers would come down and they'd look round your kennels and they'd go, yeah, they all look good, but I want one that's long coated, like it's got a long coat, or brown instead of black. Or you're just like, man, you're lucky enough.
They're specking it now down to tailored.
Yeah, and what's it got to do with the police officer? Like,
it's not your dog.
You've got into the police. You're lucky enough to be on the dog section, right? Because they say when you join the police, I think you join and you'd have to do your normal 2 years.
Yes.
Then you can branch off, right? And so you can't get into the dog section for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And normally it's probably 6 years till you get to the dog section because it's such a in-demand thing. Like, you dickhead, man. You're coming down here. You're lucky enough to be on the dog section. And now you're basically saying that dog's not the right colour.
Yeah.
So, and I just
got nothing to do with the job.
It started getting a bit
nothing
silly,
to
I
do
think,
with the job.
Sounds of it.
And so I just couldn't hack that. Like, I just got so fed up of, I don't know, it felt like you're dealing with the law, who should be correct in the way they do things, and then they're
more messed up.
How can you do that? That's ridiculous. And they do the same with payment, right? So they've got a dog, it's become a police dog, now you want pay, and 7 months later you'll get your money. Well, when you're a young business with no money,
cash flows, everything.
That's tough, right? Yeah. So the transition happened because I was getting pissed off with it. It wasn't working very well. I also used to sell try and sell drugs dogs, right? So
I thought you were going to try and sell drugs, and I was like,
bit of that as well. No, so I'd get like a young 12-month-old Labrador that loves a tennis ball because I don't know if you know how they train them, but right, so you get a dog loves a tennis ball, and then they just pair up the scent of the drug to the ball. And I got this Labrador, and it was quite goey for a ball and quite decent, but basically it wasn't good enough for the police. And so I just flashed back to my original ever thought in the dog business, which was, I wonder if you could sell a fully trained pet dog. And I got to that point because my first dog had been such a nightmare for 5 years. I thought, well, if I've struggled and I was obsessed about training and good at training animals, if I screwed it up, most people are probably screwing this up. And I shelved it because by this point I could train the dog. And so having a dog that just didn't jump up and didn't pull on lead and came back when you called it, I didn't value that anymore because I'd already sorted it. However, back in the day when I was struggling, I'd have paid 20 grand to sort it.
Yeah.
So I got this Labrador. It wasn't good enough to make a drugs dog. I thought, I wonder if that idea works. So I advertised it as a fully trained pet dog, 1,250 quid. It was called Harley, the dog was. 1,250 quid, and the phone rang off the hook. And I was like, right, this is it. I've got it. I've got that,
I got the USP.
Every entrepreneur looks for that kind of magic formula of something that's worth nothing and you can make it worth loads. I thought, I've got it. So that was it. We start selling fully trained pet dogs. So I build 10 kennels. I was going to say something about planning permission, then I'm not going to. So I build 10 kennels and I go out and I fill them up with pet type dogs. So I've got, I can't remember what I had, but I would have had like Springer Spaniels, Cocker Spaniels, Labradors, just nice pet type dogs.
Yeah, family type dogs.
And in that first year, we sold 107 fully trained pet dogs. I think probably for an average price of £2,000 a dog. Now, bearing in mind, I'd come from a place where I was trying to sell, I was probably selling 12 police dogs a year for £3,500, right? So 107 fully trained pet dogs at £2,000 a pop. The difficulty was, within 2 weeks of leaving, 90% of them had gone wrong, right? So I sold 107.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks of them going, 45% of those have been returned for a full refund because everything I'd taught them had gone out the window.
Okay.
And another 45% I had to go and visit free of charge to put them right because in my youthful arrogance, I'd read in a book somewhere that if you can give a money back guarantee, if you can take away the risk of a deal,
So
why would someone not do the deal, right?
Yeah.
So my risk removal was buy the dog. If it doesn't work, bring it back and I'll give you your money. And if you have it and you have problems, I'll come and sort it for free wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
And then 90% of them went wrong. So literally that first year, and what was happening was I would buy a dog that someone was selling because it was a pain in the arse, right? So it's jumping up, pulling on lead, chasing animals. I'd buy it, bring it back to WKD, train it not to do all that, and then give it to a person who behaved exactly like the first person who owned it. The dog would just go back to doing all the same shit again. And I hadn't worked this out at that point. So that was where it was going wrong. And it wasn't fun at all. I remember a few kind of key points there. I remember borrowing 20 grand off my dad because I had no money. I've got people chasing me for debt. My ex-girlfriend's dad's chasing me to pay for a car that he reckons I owe. It was getting on top. So I borrowed some money off my dad. I remember telling my mum that I'd just committed to spend £5 grand that I didn't have on a website, and she went skits. But that website was actually the turning point for the whole.
Yeah.
It was a turning point for the whole thing, and it's the thing I guess it's made me always now take that risk on investment. There's a difference between spending your money on wasting it, isn't there, and investing it on something that should give back. And that first website was the one. So I've got all these dogs gone wrong, and I'm trying to learn business and I don't know, having a kind of value-based character and all this different self-motivation, business development type stuff. And I basically worked out that if I could work out how to supply someone with a dog that was that good, even if they were shit, it would still work.
Yeah.
Then I've done it,
You've
right?
done it.
So what you get with most dog trainers is, and I was doing this, right? So I'd sell you the dog, you'd take the dog home, the dog would start being a twat, and then I'd blame you.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what it's what most business owners do, right? You buy one of these cameras from someone, take it home, break it, it's your fault, not theirs, right? Yeah. It's not because they've made it too complicated or because their instructions don't make sense. It's your fault.
It's your fault, yeah.
And that's exactly what I was doing with these customers. I remember a guy, he'd paid me 15 grand for a protection dog in Scotland, and he rang me 3 or 4 days later and he goes, Matt, this dog has just eaten my child's sandwich, right? And I went, what do you mean? He said, well, my kid sat on the floor with a plate on the floor on the carpet, and the dog's come along and eaten the sandwich. And I went, why isn't your kid sat at the table? And that now, to a guy who's just spent all this money on a dog, right? Seems mental that I even said that, because the dog should have been good enough.
Yeah.
To eat. But that was the mentality, and it is the mentality that most business owners, I think, and dog owners, dog trainers have. But I worked out, if I can stop this being a thing, then I've made it.
Yeah.
So there were many kind of iterations of the business from that point forward, but I worked out things like, if I can buy a dog that doesn't do the things wrong in the first place, then a customer's never going to struggle with it, right? So if I can buy a dog that doesn't jump up, doesn't pull on lead, doesn't chase animals, can walk and sit in the coffee shop and just fall asleep without being told what to do, and it does that on day one, then
no problem.
Really, I don't even need to train it, right? I can just sell it and it will just work. And that was kind of what we started doing, right? So we now only buy 10% of the dogs that we temperament test. So we are looking for a dog that's good fun, but basically placid and easygoing. And only 10% of dogs that are born grow into that type of dog. But we started buying those. I've just made it sound like we don't train dogs anymore. but that selection of the animal in the first place was really the key to us sorting it out. And then we did things like, as a dog trainer, I use a lot of body language, and I'm quite good at using my voice to get the dog to kind of go up in energy or down in energy. But a member of the public who's paying a lot of money for a dog doesn't want to learn any of that. They just want to buy their dog, take it to the school. Like that. That's it. And so training a dog, we basically reinvented the whole thing. We went, how do we select a dog and put it out the door and do it across 1,000 a year and have it as close to McDonald's knocking out a Big Mac anywhere in the world as possible. That was kind of my mentality, was how do you create a conveyor belt? I don't like talking about dogs like that, but that was kind of it. Like, how do you select? It's the
concept of those into
how do you select a specific type of animal, put it through a specific process, and end up with a specific result, even though one's a Great Dane, one's a Jack Russell, and one's going to go and live in London, and the other one's going to the Bahamas, and that was basically what we did. And it was an amazing journey. We finished off, so we closed the doors because of HS2 Railway on the 13th of January. We finished off selling in the region of 300 dogs a year at $8,000 a go.
Nice.
With a 3% failure rate.
3%?
3%.
Wow.
So, and it's giving me goosebumps just talking. You know, it was a huge achievement. And the one thing that and I'm talking to the accountants about this at the moment as we're sorting out the valuation for the business, and the one thing we never had was any competition. People, there's probably been 20 people who've seen what we did and had a go.
Yeah.
And they lasted no more than that first year, which is when, if you think that's when we had the 90% failure rate and things were horrible.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever come out the other side of that.
You went and tried to fix them, and obviously you
tried
did
to
fix them.
You weren't happy with the product, were you?
No,
You thought,
wasn't
there's got to
happy.
be a way.
And I was stuck because I owed my dad all this money, and I've just took on a 12-month rent on a house, and my girlfirl's gone. And
so how much
you
were you
want to
in
make
debt
it work.
before you went into WKD?
Probably 40k in.
And what's your business with now? Like, if you would, obviously you close your doors.
It's hard. So it's hard to say because we're still going through the valuation process. But the business at the point we closed it was clearing 400 grand net profit a year. I imagine the valuation is going to come out somewhere between £4 and £5 million.
So 40k in debt.
Yeah.
Five years later.
10 years.
10 years later.
10 years.
4 or 5 million net worth.
Yeah. But it's been like we did all sorts. We launched an online dog training. I want to be very careful not to make it look like it was all about money, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
The thing for me was always about how do we improve the lives of dogs and people. But we launched an online dog training platform that got better results for people with the specific problem we were dealing with dogs that bark at other dogs aggressively, or cars or people when they're out for a walk. So you see a dog walking down the road and it's going nuts at a person over there. That was the specific problem that I wanted to work out how to solve. So I started off solving it face to face. The deal was it's £1,000. You come for 3 hours. And if you're not happy with the results at the end, don't pay me. Right? Yeah. So it's still back to this risk removal thing. And if you go home and it doesn't work, you come back and see me free of charge. And if I still can't sort it, I'll give you your money back. Right? So that was the thing. I ended up doing those 5 days a week, often twice a day, pretty much throughout the whole year. We filmed every single one we ever did.
Yeah.
And then I launched those as an online training platform. And again, now the variables here, I haven't really I removed myself from the dog training world 10 years ago because it's just so bitchy. So literally, I don't talk to anyone in the industry. That's probably going to change with what I've got planned next.
Yeah.
But up until now, I haven't. And so I haven't really talked to anyone about this. But when you think about the variables of the different types of dogs and the different types of owners, and we've had clients on the online training platform who've been blind, deaf, all sorts of
disability, anything,
all sorts of different things, and most of them have seen face-to-face trainers and not succeeded. And then they bought our online training platform and went and did it within 48 hours. And it was that same mentality of how do you build something where there's step-by-step process, and it's almost like it's a flow chart of you start here, answer a question, yes or no. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated.
Yeah, it expands and you keep...
and you move your way through, and there was different lessons, and at certain points, you'd have to send a video in so we could check how you were getting on. And whereas every other dog trainer was saying online dog training is impossible, I was like, how do you make it possible? Not it's impossible.
Yeah,
how do you make it possible? What do you need to do? And I've still got more ideas about that. I still look at what we did, and it worked phenomenally well. And I still go, it wasn't as good as it could have been, because we could have, instead of just having videos that they watched, which is great, but they watch a 5-minute video and then they go out and forget what they've watched. What if they'd had me in their ear when they were training the dog, going, as you're walking down the road, don't forget to watch this, slow down a bit. Did your dog?
Yeah.
And so it can go so much further. But I think we were just operating on a different level. Don't get me wrong, there's much better dog trainers out there than me.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm very good. but there's much better dog trainers. When it comes to training a person who has no inclination to train their dog, to train it,
you're the man.
Then I come into my own.
You're the man.
That was the interest for me. It's not
Matt the Human Whisperer.
He's got too many nicknames already.
People can go out, and if they want to learn how to do something, it's a bit like taking someone who doesn't want to learn jiu-jitsu, teaching them how to be really good.
Yeah.
It's tough because they haven't got the motivation. Most of my clients would be busy professional people who wanted the benefits of a dog in their life, but didn't want any of the downsides.
Yeah.
And so they'd get a dog thinking they were going to get the upsides. They'd get the downsides. And then they go to the average dog trainer who goes, right, now for the next 6 months, you need to do this. And they're like, fuck off, man. I'll sell the dog. And
I got time for this.
And that for me was the bigger problem to deal with, was how do you
eliminate that?
You can't just go, just because that owner's not interested, the dog should suffer.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that need helping more than anyone. And so that's what we did. So where I was going with that, we launched this online training platform, and I had back at this point when we launched this, I used to wake up 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning hungover, right? I've been out Friday night, been on it. Our pre-recorded webinar has played in the morning, and I'm waking up to 20 grand in the bank from this.
Wow.
From this. And it's just never been done. Nobody's ever done it in the dog training industry the way that we did it. And again, it's not all about the money, but the fact that we built that.
It worked. The system worked, what you put in place.
It was the system that, I don't know what question you asked me. I feel
but
like I've gone off on a tangent.
No, because it gives us better understanding of, obviously, from coming from Lincoln to Coat Seat.
Yeah.
And then from there, moving on to, obviously, Yarnfield, Tittinsay. And obviously achieving what you've achieved there and the training that you did. But again, I quite personally find it quite fascinating, because like we were saying before we started the podcast, obviously we've had dogs, my family has, I like animals, I like dogs, so I find it fascinating anyway how you can break them. Because ultimately, again, with a human, you can ask them what the problem is. Why aren't you listening? You can't do that with a dog, can you? Or even the human beings, they might be doing things, like you said, without realising and ruining the training to a certain degree of the dog, the time that you've invested. And as much as you got paid, but ultimately, you've got a recurring problem, haven't you? Which you've got to solve and fix, which you have. So obviously, you're doing brilliantly. I meant to ask, how many people have you got at this stage now at Yarnfield working with you alongside you?
So I had, at its height, I had 17.
Okay, yeah, because obviously, naturally, you're not walking all the dogs, kennels cleaning, taking them walks.
It's funny, isn't it? I set up a business based off my passion for dogs.
Yeah,
and I ended up with pretty much over the years killing my passion to the point I've now got 6 dogs at home. I'm coming out of it now, but certainly the first few months after.
And these are all pets. They're 6.
They're pets, but they're pets I didn't really want. Right, so I've always been one for a working dog. Right, so if I've got a dog in my life, it's because it's there to do something.
Yes.
I've got 2 dogs that I compete in sheepdog trials with. I've got a Dutch herder, which is like Holland's version of a German Shepherd. I would say she's a protection dog. I don't really feel like I need protection, but why not if I can?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can train a dog for protection. So she's there for that. I've got 2 old dogs that I've kind of inherited just through the business closing and stuff. And then I've got a little terrier who's just cool as fuck. So she's saying, but I've kind of got these dogs, and I guess for 12 years, I've been tied to a business, to staff, to clients. People have needed me all the time, pulling me in different directions. I've shut the business, huge amount of relief, but feels horrible saying it. I've still got these 6 dogs at home that tie me to
tie you down
tie me to the property, and it's difficult because I got into it because I love dogs, and certainly I've been through many iterations along the journey where I've hated them. Like I've not wanted a dog near me. It got so bad at one point as we were going through kind of that real pain, that 90% failure rate. I gave my own dogs to my staff. I just went, take them away. I can't. Like my head's got to be on the job.
And were you doing anything else while you were doing this training? So were you, like, I don't know, for example, come to Stoke and started doing doors, or started doing some other job on the side? No, your total focus now at this stage is on...
I thought many times I nearly left and went and got a job as a sales manager at BMW. It would have felt like the easy way
going backwards though, aren't you?
I'm glad I didn't, because I think I forced myself to kind of go through the pain where all the competition stopped after a year. I forced through it, and now look what it's become. It's been massive. So, no, I thought about it, but I never.
I mean, even with you closing down, is webinar still going, or is that done as well?
No, webinars, everything, every revenue stream of that business is.
But how did that come about? Because you didn't want to sell, did you?
Didn't no, I didn't want to sell.
Go on then.
So, I'm guessing most of your listeners are going to be UK based, so they'll have heard of HS2 Railway that the government are building. I think it's going from like London up to Scotland somewhere. Basically, the long and short is the railway's going straight through the middle of WKD trained dogs. And when that happens, there's a process, I guess, that's followed to try and help businesses get themselves out of that situation. So it kind of ends up looking like you're going to move, or we're going to pay you for closing down.
Think about your words.
I'm going to be careful how we do this. So the difficulty, and I guess I understand it, is moving a dog business, especially one that was quite niche like mine. If it was just a boarding kennels, that's quite straightforward, right? You tell everyone next year you're going to find somewhere else for your dog in summer, and then you buy another boarding kennels, you just
move them. It's like a hotel. Right? That's it. Yes, difference.
With ours, it was a bit different. We'd have at our height, we'd have 180 people with a deposit in place, waiting for an $8,000 dog that doesn't exist yet. Right, so they're going, I want a yellow female Labrador, I want a black Jack Russell, and we've got those in an order book. And so, in order for us to move, we would have had to either give all those deposits back or wind that order book down to zero. Then move. And then rebuild it all back up. It would probably, I think it would have taken us 2 years of no revenue. Now, we turned over about £2 million a year, right? So I'd have had all my overheads.
You've got to cover them.
Core team of 10 people who'd been with me for 8 years, right? Which God knows how you even put a value on a team of 8 people who've been with you for that long.
You've still got to pay the wages though, haven't you?
Still got to pay the wages. Couldn't let them go because the business is nothing without the staff, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have had 2 years. I think it would have cost about £2 million to keep it going and move it, which obviously is what we wanted to do. I understand from their point of view, it's not that straightforward. They've got lots of different moving parts, and I guess in the grand scheme of things, we're probably a tiny little piece of the puzzle. And for me, £2 million sounds like a lot of money, but they're probably dealing with someone who's £250 million. Who they need to move instead, right? So the top and bottom was I couldn't find anywhere to move the business to for the amount of money they were going to pay me for that property, right? So they've gone, that property is worth 300 grand, which bit crazy. It was on a few acres of land, 3-bedroom farmhouse, but regardless, they've gone, it's worth 300 grand. I can't find anywhere to move it to the same for less than 600. And I'm going, I'm not paying the 300 in between. So you give me that extra 300 and I'll move the business. And instead of it costing you 4 or 5 million, it'll cost 2. Jobs are good. And they just didn't really engage at all the whole way through the process. So the top and bottom is we ended up in, they originally told me that by the end of September, let me get my dates right.
We were in COVID, weren't we?
Yeah, if we hadn't found a property by the end of September 21, I think, September or October, if we hadn't found a property by then, they would be extinguishing the business. Yeah. So paying me for the loss of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm running everything based around this idea that end of September 21, if we haven't found somewhere, we're closing.
Yeah.
That's it, right? So I need to take care of my staff, need to take care of my customers. I don't want 250 people with autistic kids waiting for a dog. At that point, I need to manage this so that I maintain my reputation. The business maintains its goodwill. And if we can move, we move.
Yeah.
So July time, 21, I think. I could be wrong on my years here, so don't anyone hold me to this. July time, I send them an email going, look, we've got a few months left. I still don't understand how we're going to deal with this. If I find somewhere tomorrow, how are we going to deal with planning permission? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go buy it, then try and get planning, and if we can't get it, what we do? And I sent them a huge list of questions, and they never answered. 28th of, it was the end of October. If we hadn't found somewhere by end of, it was October. Yeah. If we hadn't found somewhere by October, we were going to be closed. 28th of September, they contact me, they want a meeting. So we jump on Zoom. I'm prepared, I'm closing the business, right? All my staff know, if we haven't found somewhere by October, we're done. I've got no dogs in the kennels. I've got no customers waiting because it's about to finish and they haven't answered all the questions that I need the answers to in order to move the business. 28th of September, you can carry on now.
What?
What? So,
excuse me.
yeah, exactly. Right. So with no notice, now they're telling me they're not going to extinguish the business and I need to keep on going. And it's my responsibility to mitigate any losses that they might have to pay me.
Yeah.
So long story short, this mess around, December, we lost £80,000 in cash. Right. It just in costs going out.
December 21 or now?
Hang on. I think 21. I think 21 was when the big loss was made.
Okay.
And then it's just kind of carried on dragging forwards. But even if it's 22, it's
yeah.
Fuck HS2. So we lost 80 grand in cash that month because everything, the staff are all up in the air. I've got people leaving because they can't keep messing around, not knowing what's going on. Yeah. So they've left. I've got dogs going wrong left, right, and centre. We've still got this guarantee in place. If anything goes wrong, we'll sort your dog out free of charge anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, they never go wrong in Barbados or anything like that. we did ship dogs all over the world. So it's all going wrong, and I had to make the decision in December. We're not sending any dogs out the door. Everything that's gone out, we're bringing back. Let's put the product right. Yeah, so it comes back to that product thing, right? Got to have the product right. There's no point doing it wrong because it's just going to come back and haunt you.
No compensation from that at all?
Not yet. So I should do. Yeah. Should do when we get there, but I'm cash flowing the whole thing at the moment, which is fine because I've got money in the bank. But what about people who haven't got the money in the bank? And there's enough stories out there that people will find if they go looking for them of people who've ended up in real bad situations, committing suicide, all sorts of stuff.
And we were in the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
Middle of pandemic.
Absolutely. So I feel fairly fortunate. I certainly went through it with this kind of. It's been quite a life-changing experience for me in a positive way, to be honest, because I think when these bad things happen,
you only learn and grow from them.
Yeah, of course you do, and it can put you rock bottom, and I think I did go rock 100%. Bottom, and I spent 4 years trying to push HS2 to basically do the best we could for the taxpayer, which is what they kept quoting to me.
Okay,
and I was like, look, to do best by the taxpayer, you need to listen to me because I understand my business and I know exactly how hard this is going to be. And if we're going to move it, I need to know this, and this, and blah. I was trying for 4 years to pick up the business and move it and do right by everyone.
Yeah.
I've kind of hit a point now where I realise they don't care because I'm just a small thing, a small cog in the wheel, and it just doesn't matter to them on that scale. It's just not. And so it's been quite a revelation, really, because as soon as I realised that and I stopped trying, I stopped worrying about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually probably now the most chilled. I'm probably owed £4 million.
Wow.
But I'm not really bothered. Like the money will come when the money comes, and it's not all about the money.
Yeah.
And what's the point in stressing about something I can't control?
Yeah.
Because that's the top and bottom. I can't make them deal with it faster than they want to deal with it. It's kind of back in my hands now. So it's back with my forensic accountants and my legal team because they haven't done their bit. And the problem is, for me, it's my life, right? It's my life. It's my livelihood. It's my business. It's been my staff. It's been everything. To everyone else, it's just a piece of their job, isn't it? Right. So my legal team is just one of the jobs
that they've got on
they're
their
dealing
Yeah,
with.
it's
And so,
your livelihood, it's your life, really.
And so I guess I've put myself in a situation now where I know I've got enough. I can wait for 4 years if I need to. It doesn't matter.
Don't say that out loud.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when the money comes. It's not going to ruin my life if I don't get it for a little while. What's the point in stressing about it? And I'm trying to look at it as a place to grow rather than
Go backwards.
Yeah,
and just
go
sit
backwards.
there,
And it hasn't. And I've sat and I've gone back to books that I read when I was like the first turning point in the business. I read a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I've just bought it again and started reading it. And it's amazing going back to something and going, oh, do you know what? If I'd have read this every week for the last 12 years of my life, wouldn't life be different? Because you forget stuff, don't you? You learn stuff
Yeah,
and then
naturally.
you forget it and you move on. And it's actually, I think, going to probably become like the next making of me through the negative of this HS2. I think it will be the best.
Yeah,
the
you
best
turn the
thing that
negative into the positive as best as you can,
And I would have never ever walked away from the business. It made too much money too easily.
Plus
to
you
walk
enjoyed
away
what you
from.
did. You
I
love
enjoyed
animals.
what I did. But I now kind of feel like what's next?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it exciting? I don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, no,
That's
100%,
great.
yeah.
Like that's super excited because it would have really carried on just doing the same thing for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have developed, but really, I knew what the next 30 years looked like.
Yeah.
Now, I get to go.
Damn.
I get to go again,
get again with something
and have
else,
another
yeah.
go. And I was changing that kind of paradigm, that shift in your mind of how something looks one way and then seeing it a different way. Like I've just quit. My mum might listen to it. I've quit smoking, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, so I quit 6 months ago. I read a book by this doctor. Read a book, literally read the book, stopped smoking. 6 months.
Oh,
Then,
okay.
It's easy, man.
then it says in the book, like, some people will start nipping to the pub and having a pint and then they'll have a fag with the pint and before you know it, you'll be back. Full-time smoking. Well, that's exactly what happened. So I've just been in Tenerife and when I was in Tenerife, I went, right, quitting smoking. I've come back and I've just stopped smoking again. But that book, the paradigm shift in there is basically going from cigarettes giving you something like reducing your stress or, you know, whatever that be,
Gain is,
to realizing that cigarettes give you absolutely nothing and you don't enjoy it because nobody enjoyed their first one. The
Yes.
only reason you do it is you're addicted to nicotine, right?
Yeah.
Get that in your head. And now I don't want a fag. Like it's been a mind shift
Yes.
that happened in a split second and I've just stopped smoking again, right? And it's exactly the same with this HS2 thing because I was like, oh my God, woe is me. I've spent 12 years building this big successful business and now they've took it away and I'm too old to do it again, right? And that's kind of how I've been going. And now I'm going, maybe this is a really important lesson because maybe the first time you only do it to a certain point because you can only see so far, and then the second time round's the real one, right?
Yeah,
And so
no,
maybe this one,
100%.
maybe this one will be
You know
three.
how big the
That-
ceiling is now that you got to
Yeah,
punch
yeah.
through.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it would just be, it'd be great in life if every time we had these bad thoughts, someone just tapped you on the shoulder and went, just change your
Perspective.
Mindset.
what's the good
perspective,
on
yeah.
what's
It's
the
always
good that could
perspective.
come out of this? Because if you can just take that moment and get that thought, change the way you look at it. But it's not easy, is it? Sometimes
No.
Yeah,
you're
of
stuck
course.
in the hole and you're trying to work it out. But certainly I'm going to spend much more time trying to look on the flip side. I'm a positive person anyway, but there are points where you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
you
all
get
human,
stuck.
aren't we? Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Before we move on to the next part where we talk
I
about your
hadn't- I was
future.
still, so the kennel shut in January 2023 then. So
Yeah.
officially, they've had to close. So where's all the dogs gone then now?
So all of the dogs, my team did a phenomenal job. So I'm going to get the numbers wrong here, but 6 or 7 of my team stayed with me, even though they knew they were losing their jobs. They stayed with us right till
Loyalty.
till the
Loyalty.
last
Love it.
day. Right,
Yeah,
they were
brilliant.
with me.
You're a lucky guy.
Yeah. They were with me right till the end, and so we wound the business down. We fulfilled our obligations. All of the dogs that we were due to supply, we supplied. Ironically, one of the last dogs we supplied was to a lady who worked for HS2, and her I sound bad now because I can't actually remember because I didn't have that much close dealings with clients towards the end of the business. The staff
Yeah.
did it, but
Yeah.
her son or her daughter only had a few years left to live. She worked for HS2. She wanted to give her child a dog
Yeah.
to have those memories, right? I think the child's like 12 or 13, like a young child, something seriously going wrong. And we were on a timeline as to when, by HS2, as to when we could sell our last dog. Every time we sold a dog, gave a 6-month backup service. And if I couldn't abide by that, we shouldn't be selling the dog. Right? And it was the last one we did, and I fiddled it through probably in the last 4 months instead of the 6 months. And ironically, it was to someone who worked for HS2. But that was like the drive.
That is ironic, that is the last one.
Mental,
wow.
isn't it? The drive. Yeah. In fact, the other thing that nearly happened, but it didn't quite come off, was Harvey, the very first dog I sold, the Labrador as a trained pet. He'd passed away. So it was like 12 years, right? We've been doing the business.
Oh, wow.
He passed away, and that client was very nearly the last ever client I had. So she was going to be the first one. And then I didn't pull it off in the end, but it was nice to see. You know, she came down and saw me. But
like a full circle.
Absolutely. So it's been an interesting story. So we fulfilled our obligations. All of the dogs, the nature of the business, the dogs were in demand anyway. So all of the dogs went
gone,
out
and
to
you've
nice
got 6 at home though.
I've got 6 at home, which I'd like to lighten that by 3. But the girlfriend's not going to allow it. She's in
love with them all.
Yeah, she is. And I think the more with what we're going to go on to next, with what's next for me, I actually think I'm going to go from finding them a bind to finding them. My dogs have suffered, right, for the last 12 years. I've been so busy trying to work out how to improve the bigger picture for dogs and people that my own dogs have suffered. Yeah. And so actually now I've got a great opportunity to spend time with my dogs and give back to my own dogs and enjoy them again, because I haven't done, and there's been points certainly over the last 3 months where one of them will come up to me when I'm sat on the sofa and I'm like, oh, fuck off, man, I don't want to give you a fuss. Like go away, go away, I don't want it. And that's changing slowly as I'm changing my mindset with what's going on. It's been a bit of a beat down for the last 4 years and we're coming out of it. And I don't think my dogs are going to go anywhere. I think they'll stay, and I think I'll work it out.
So what would you say? Which is your favorite breed to work with, to train, easy to train?
Well, so I guess there's a couple of things there. As a dog trainer, I have no interest in easy dogs.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I understand that. You want the problematic ones.
Yeah. So give me an easy dog, I'll be bored of it in 10 minutes, right? In terms of clients, like if somebody was to come to me, if an average person just walked in the door and said, I want a dog for my family. Yeah. And this goes well against what people think. I'm most likely to supply them with a Springer Spaniel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, everyone thinks Springer Spaniels are absolutely mental. Yeah. When we did our temperament testing and working out how to pick the perfect pet dog, we temperament tested 27 different parts of a dog's characters, right? So for how greedy is it? Because if it's too greedy, you're not going to be able to take it and sit in a coffee shop. Yeah. And if it's not greedy enough, it's going to be hard to teach it how to do things because you won't be able to give it treats. Right. So there's all these different things we were looking for. Only 10% of dogs passed that temperament test. 45% of those dogs were Springer Spaniels, and only 3.9% of them were Cocker Spaniels, right? Which everyone thinks it's the opposite. Springer Spaniels pass the temperament test 45% of the time. Yeah. Cocker Spaniels only 3.9% of the time. And so basically, if you want a dog that's calm, relaxed, easygoing, doesn't jump up, doesn't chase animals, doesn't steal food, Springer Spaniel. But 55% of Springer Spaniels are a fucking nightmare, and 45% of them are going to be exactly what you want. But that's in terms of odds, that's what you should.
What sort of dogs would you recommend to? Let's say if it was a family, obviously Springer Spaniel. Then let's say it was somebody single. Would you say more of the bigger dogs, the Rottweilers, the Cane Corsos, and so on, or German Shepherds?
It's very difficult for me because I believe everyone should own a dog that has those 27 traits. My answer is any breed that has those. Does that make sense? It's any dog of that breed that has those 27 traits.
I get it.
That's kind of what I'm looking for. So, some of the more shocking things. So there's a thing called resource guarding, which is dogs that will bite over their food bowl, right? So you give it its food and you go too close and it bites you. Golden Retrievers, which are the guide dog type dogs, failed our test for resource guarding 76% of the time, right? So that means 76% of Golden Retrievers will bite someone over their food bowl. which is a trait you'd never think of for a golden retriever because they're soft and cuddly and fluffy, and so we've just done work on different levels.
These are all your tests designed by you.
Yeah. So
brilliant,
and it was.
Have you patented all these, by the way?
I haven't, but they're all up here, ready to go. I think
good.
I've obviously thought about it. The difficulty with it is getting the worst person to select a dog to supply to someone who isn't a dog trainer is a dog trainer.
Okay.
Right? So if we get 100 dogs and put them over there, and we go and get a dog trainer and get them to temperament test the dogs to choose one for Naki, and then I get you to temperament test them to choose one for Naki, you'll do a better job. Right? Okay. Because the dog trainer will look at the dog that's got the problems and be attracted to it. Because they'll fix it. Right? Whereas you're more like, I could literally give you a book and go through those dogs, mark them based on, as you walk up to it, does it not move, jump on you, and you just mark it, and at the end you get the results, and that's kind of what we've got at WKD. You go through it, and you'd end up with the results. So one of the things I did with the business was I didn't employ dog trainers. I employed horse people most of the time, and then I'd teach them how to train dogs my way.
Yeah,
because I want a dog trainer who looks like a member of the public, but does it well.
Or uses your methods.
Yeah, most dog trainers behave like a dog trainer, which is not how the average person is going to walk down the high street. And so there was a lot, went into it. But I think if you were just looking, any dog trainers listening to this are going to hammer me for this. But Springer Spaniel, because everyone thinks they're mental.
Yeah.
But 45%.
I'm sure there's not many blue belt or even
none of them are as good as me.
But that brings me on to your question with your client list. Yeah. I'm interested to know, because I know you have sold dogs all over the world. Yeah. So in terms of clients, off the top of your head, some clients you've sold dogs to, or even people who you've trained to do your dog training thing using a webinar, is there anyone quite high profile?
Yeah.
There's got to be special protection dogs. There'll be people, I don't know if you say or not, but there will be
there is.
Sort of
I'm
faces
hoping you've
names.
got a list of this because I can't remember. Because I don't want to say they all mould into one, but when you've done one billionaire, you've done 10, right?
So billionaires, there we go, billionaires.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to start. Right, captain of Roman Abramovich's super yacht has got a protection dog from me. So I don't know if he's still on the yacht.
Okay.
But I imagine that boat's worth £200 million or something ridiculous, and they've got a Belgian Malinois, and the captain of the boat had that dog from me.
Nice.
I have read it to a few places. Is it one of the actors from Game of Thrones? EastEnders actress.
Yeah, EastEnders actress.
And another one, a comedian, was it Catherine Ryan?
Yeah, so Catherine Ryan didn't ever actually have one. Catherine Ryan ordered a dog from us.
Oh, okay.
I think and I'm sure she spoke about this on the podcast, so I'm sure I can say it, but I think she got broken into or had some kind of security scare at the house. And she had a small dog, like a Chihuahua, and she wanted a bigger dog. She put the deposit in, and we spoke quite a lot about supplying the dog, and we offered her a few dogs, and it just never came about. But even though it didn't come about, she mentioned us on her podcast. So Catherine Ryan's got her, I don't know the name of the podcast, but she mentioned us, and all of our customers then started messaging me going, Matt, Catherine Ryan's, and I was like, who's Catherine? Who's Catherine Ryan?
Who's Catherine?
But yeah. So that was a that was a good one. The England rugby team, during COVID came and looked. I think they had a Labrador from us, which was to help the guys with mental health issues. They were away from the family. They were traveling and doing things, and because of COVID, they couldn't mix, and so they came and had a dog. We've done all sorts. Mr. Hygiene, a washing machine. Billionaire off the rich list. I'm trying to think. There's a chap in Australia whose name Brett. Someone, isn't it funny how most billionaires aren't well known?
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
But he was like a beef farmer.
Okay.
Like billionaire beef farmer. Like he's just got like a huge shop of cows. But so there's quite a few amazing lives. Bahamas, Barbados, USA, Sweden. We've got dogs all over. Dubai. We've got dogs.
Somebody told me, was it Greece, Sweden, Switzerland? You've got dogs going as far as there. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And this comes back to the fact there was no competition. right? Because it wasn't only in England there was no competition. People had to go all over the world, and no one's ever worked out.
Yes, Matt.
Yes.
No one's ever worked how to do it. So yeah, we literally had the world was our oyster.
Brilliant.
So we would sometimes I'd send the staff with the dogs. I think I got too busy. Things were too busy for me to take the time.
Running the business.
Yeah, for me to take the time out. So quite often the staff would go, but more often than not, what would happen is the client would fly in to us, come and meet the dog, do what we call a handover. So kind of the process of someone getting a dog was they'd tell us what they were looking for. We'd think we've got the right dog. We'd send them some pictures. If they like the look of it, they'd come and meet it. If they love it when they meet it and we're happy it's going to work, we'd then train it. And then we'd do the handover, which is about 3 or 4 hours, showing them how to deal with the dog, make sure everyone's happy, make sure the dog's happy, and then send it on its way. Mm-hmm. If it was going abroad, typically they'd come in, meet it for the first time on the day it was going to be handed over. So assuming they were happy, we'd then do the training with them, and then we'd drop the dog to the airport, and then they'd fly, and then the dog would
take it with them.
Yeah, and it'd go on the same flight, but it would go in the hold, in the hold in a cage. And,
brilliant.
But they travel.
But if it wasn't, it'd be more so your staff. Because I would have thought you would have gone, to be fair. Naturally being sort of your business.
It would have been nice. We sold a dog to the High Court,
Supreme Court in India.
you guys know more than me.
We try to do our best on the research.
Yeah. So he had a dog from us. He lived both in India and in Surrey. Most unbelievable house I've ever been to in Surrey.
Okay.
And we supplied him his first dog, which was supplied to Surrey. I think I went and did that one. That was probably quite early on in the business. I went and did the handover. Everything was great. Then they contacted us again for a second dog, which also went down to Surrey. And then he asked if I'd travel to India and train 2 of his Indian dogs.
Yeah.
And then travel back to England with those dogs. It never came off. I was so busy, I quoted some ridiculous price for that. I probably quoted like 80 grand for 2 weeks' work or something, because I didn't really have the time.
Yeah. You were busy with the business.
Yeah, I didn't really have the time to go and do it. I think we sorted the job for him in the end.
Yeah.
But you can probably tell the scale of the business. I don't know a lot of what went on. The staff,
day to day as such. Because you're busy.
The team were unbelievable. They knew the business inside out, and it was.
And do you mind me asking two parts to this question? One, obviously, I hear of dogs. I mean, the most expensive one I think I've ever heard of is protection dogs. Is about 25 grand.
Yeah.
What's the most expensive dog, if you like, when it went out there fully trained, ready? Would you say that you heard of? And then the second part of the question, if you don't mind me asking this, what's the most expensive dog you've sold?
Okay, so it's a two-part question, right? So the first one. Most expensive dog. I've probably heard of dogs in the region of £100,000.
Wow.
I certainly know there's a couple of companies.
Would that be because they're breed and bloodline, pedigree, or
good salespeople
and good salespeople?
I think it takes a certain type of person to be able to ask £100,000 for anything, right?
Yeah, no, of course.
Do you think a dog's worth 100 grand? Is that because that faces you're giving me?
I think I could make one worth 100 grand. I think
next project.
I think a lot of dogs that people sell are far overpriced.
Okay.
For nothing to do with the quality of the animal,
but
the quality of the training and the service and all the other stuff. I think a lot of dogs are overpriced. A lot of people have jumped on the hype.
Yes.
So people being able to charge
especially
a lot of money.
After the pandemic now. Yeah. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Dogs were getting stolen big time over the pandemic. It was one of the biggest crimes. Dogs being stolen and being sold on.
Pandemic. So £100,000 I don't think's happening often, but I think it certainly happens. I think there's certainly companies I know of in the UK selling protection dogs for 50k. There's certainly dogs I know of selling for 50k in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. Because the average price for a protection dog is 2025, is that right?
Yeah, 2025. The thing, so I sell protection dogs, right? My most expensive protection dog was a 30k dog, and it was, I'm going to say 9 or 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason my business was so successful and made more money than any of these protection dog companies probably put together is they go out and they buy a puppy at 8 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. They raise it until it's 18 months to 2 years, and then they sell it for 50 grand. I was buying a dog at 12 months of age.
Yeah.
Temperament testing it for 2 weeks, training it for 4, and out the door at 8. 6 weeks later.
So you're spending less time, food.
No time at all.
So you're not spending a lot of money on them either. In a sense, it's not costing you because you're feeding them for 2
costing,
years.
Yeah.
Just that alone, the food bill.
You start putting, it's not so bad if you're doing it as a one-man band, but once you start putting staff on training those dogs, and I've looked at every single way to make money in the dog world, and I don't think anyone did it as well as we did. Like,
It would have been quicker that way because the turnaround's quicker.
Yeah, of course it would.
Makes sense.
And we buy the dog in, buy a good German Shepherd, it costs you 5 grand. Buy a good Labrador, it's 600 quid.
Yeah.
It's a sales concept, isn't it? The longer the car stays on the forecourt, it's costing you. The quicker it comes in, it goes back out and you got a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why if you was, in fact, I've just done this for the forensic accountants. I was basically trying to prove how far apart we stood from any other business selling dogs in the UK. Go on Company's House and have a look, and we've got a net worth of like £800,000 just in the business, and we're sat on £400,000 or £500,000 in cash. Brilliant. Closest to us was a company who'd also been trading 12 years, and they're sat on 80 grand in cash. Yet they're selling dogs for twice, 3 times, 4 times the price.
Yeah.
But it's just the business.
The
business works better.
It's how you come up with your idea of the 12 months pick them up.
And I do think you get this across all industries. Most people who have their own business are skilled at the job, but not at running a business, right? So you get an electrician, and he's a good electrician.
Yeah.
So he sets up an electrician business, and he's shit at running
business.
Right? So all he does is he buys himself a job, and he gets really stressed out because now he's doing all the other shit that he doesn't enjoy, and he's probably earning less than what he get as an hourly wage. The difference with me was I was interested in dogs and I was interested in business.
Business, yes.
And I put the two together. Most people in the dog world are interested in dogs. And I think they almost feel like making money from it is a bad thing. Whereas I've had a different opinion to it. I kind of go with, why not get paid well for a job well done? Do you know what I mean? We give more.
It's a unique skill set, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're changing lives. Like when I had that difficult dog, my life was hell. It was horrible.
So you've been through it.
Dreaded going home. I'd have paid any amount of money to solve the problem. I just couldn't find anyone good enough to solve it. And that's kind of where I started going, hang on a minute. Rod, this guy who sorted me out, was great, but not very commercially viable. Like he wasn't great at talking to people. Yeah. And I thought, well, I can sort that side. Yeah. And then I'll yeah.
Nice.
So now that sort of, you've wrapped it up and it's had to come to an end, unfortunately. Like I said, otherwise you'd have probably still kept running.
Yeah.
And what I found taking back from this so far, listening to your journey and, the experiences is, I think you needed that. That's just you, because once you've sort of conquered something and figured it out, it's like any job. If you go somewhere, I don't know, you might start as a sales and then be head of sales and then head of regional sales and so on. So it's a sort of when you've got to the top, you're like, right, this is done. I suppose this was indirectly done via HS2, but I think you'd conquered the module, aren't you?
I think it was done system. Anyway. I think I'd have had to stick with it because of the money it made. I don't think I'd have ever had the bottle to walk away from something that makes 300 grand profit a year. Like it's a lot of money. But yes, the passion wasn't there. It was done. It was complete. I could have, we finished up with a 3% failure rate. I could have probably got it to 2.5. Yeah. I'd have never got it to 0 because that's impossible. I could have added new services and done different things with it, but I don't know. I think I'd learned what I needed to learn. I genuinely believe the reason I'm here is to improve the lives of dogs and people around the world. And I think that part of the journey was done.
Yeah.
So where have you been since, or what have you been up to since January, obviously this year, since you had to sort of
I've had a bit of time out
today and hang up the gloves, if you like.
Yeah, I've had a bit of time out. Been on holiday a few too many times. Got a few more holidays booked. But a fair bit of time on the mats. Got myself a key to the gym, so I now open it in the morning as well.
Nice.
So I've been doing that, and I guess I've just been trying to take a bit of a chill out. and work out what's next. I think it'd be very easy to dive straight. I've got money in the bank. I could dive straight in
something.
I have dived into a few things. I've gone and bought a house to do up and a few different bits that I've always fancied doing that I've never had a chance to do.
Hustles, yeah.
But really, I've taken a little bit of time to chill out, to consider my next move.
Do you mind sharing that with us? Have you considered a move? And do you mind?
Yeah, I think I have. So I don't believe dogs and people get the support that they should. I think I helped 300 dogs and people a year through supplying fully trained pets. Then we launched the online training, and then we were helping 10,000s a month and that sort of thing, but still nowhere near as big as it could be. And one thing, that book I mentioned earlier, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the things they talk about in there is you go through like these stages of like private victories. Have you ever read?
Yes, yeah.
So you go through the private
personal
victories.
wins and so on.
You get your personal wins, which is like confidence and different things. Then you get your public wins, and then the last one is synergy, right? And synergy is all about working together with other people, right? And so we built this unbelievable online dog training platform, but it had its problems, because what if somebody didn't want to train the dog my way, or what if they didn't like me as a person, or there were all these different things. And so I think this has kind of always been, I guess, where I saw it going. I just didn't know quite how we were going to get there and what it was going to look like. But my next move is going to be to mentor and coach good dog trainers, like the guy who sorted my original dog out, on how to run more successful businesses to allow them to help more people. And I think through doing that, I guess it's going to be a kind of a coaching and a business mentorship, because they can do the dog training bit. I'll probably be able to help them in terms of how you get someone who isn't really interested at doing it to be really good. I'll be able to help there, but the ultimate thing long term, I think, will almost be like
train the trainers.
Yeah, well, I kind of see it being a bit like the Dragon's Den apprentice type thing. I don't think I'll be on TV.
Yeah.
But I remember trying to raise money at different points in my business career, and nobody got it. Nobody understood the dog business. Nobody thought there was any money to be made in it. People who did go after, and I did get people, Mr. Hygiene, a washing machine, I needed some money, and he literally said, I'll give you 100 grand, I'll just wire it you. No, didn't want any proof of it. Like, they just trusted me.
Yeah.
I'm not promising that to anyone. But I do think there are very good dog trainers out there who have the capability of doing their own version of what I've done.
Yes.
But they haven't got the money, and people won't support them. And so I think that's probably going to be a part of my life moving forward.
Do some sort of dog training academy.
Yeah, I think I'll be investing. What I don't want to do is teach people my way.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm not convinced my way is the way that worked for me, for my mission, for what I was trying to do at that point. I think the bigger problem is how do we make sure that every puppy that's born leaves the breeder with an owner motivated to do training to stop that dog being a dickhead?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you do the same then from rescue centres and everywhere else? So it's now become a much bigger thing in my head. I'm now going, how do you rid India of stray dogs? How do you, like, it's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, it's massive.
Yeah.
But the only way I will ever do it is sorting that synergy out.
Yeah.
And having a tribe of 10,000 dog trainers who are all shit hot, who all trust me because I've helped them sort their business side of things.
Yeah.
And then who knows
where you can be.
Who knows where?
I love
who
that.
knows where it goes? But that's
training vibe.
That's the move, and it's probably been a good 4 or 5 years since I've been passionate about kick.
Because you've been tied up with this, obviously.
I cannot wait for this because it feels like a huge challenge. Most dog trainers are really egotistical. So it's going to be a challenge, like, because the good ones think they're fucking amazing, like I do.
So they'll be like, trying to sell teach me anything.
Trying to sell them is going to be hard. But
you've proven
I can't wait because I've got the bank statements. We've got the proof that we did it, and I've got the recommendations from the customers, and I've got the types.
Your CV speaks for itself.
just the list of people that I've had mentor. Most of my clients the right clients have been mentors for me in business.
Yeah.
And so you start, CEO of Domino's Pizza Europe. Well, anyone who's looking at setting up a dog training franchise, I've probably got the right person to ring. Do you know what I mean?
So, because of his network of properties in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's all. Yeah, I'm stoked on this one. I'm not there yet, so I don't have any links or Facebooks or anything like that because I haven't set it up because I need to get my head around.
Exclusive for us.
Yeah, exclusive for you. And I guess if anyone out there is watching and they're good enough, they'll be able to find me anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So,
cool.
Matt, thank you very much. Really enjoyed this podcast. I have.
How long did we go for? I thought we was going to struggle for an hour.
Hour and a half.
Yeah. Genuinely enjoyed the podcast, mate, with yourself, and you share any experiences in the business side of things as well, but also the whole dog training, because obviously, like I said to you, love animals. We've always had dogs in security in our game as well. Love the journey, love the work you've done.
Thank you.
And you coming here, especially and sharing this with us. And
it's been a pleasure talking you through it. It's good to get it out.
Yeah.
Because you don't.
I bet in your head
sometimes
it was like,
look back at what you've achieved though, and because you just carry on going every day, but to look back and think, I did this and then I did that and I've done this, and
and like when I walked in, I was like, I don't know how we're going to do an hour talking about me. But
I remember you saying that.
It just goes, doesn't it? Because you remember stuff as you go as well. And I think one thing I've been thinking about for my new venture is how to put together my story in a concise, easy to understand and impactful way. And this will actually be really useful because I'll be able to go back over this podcast now and go, right, hang on, I need this, I need that, I don't need that. And I'll be able to work it out. So, really useful. So, it's been a pleasure.
Do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Because Naki did tell me, he was like, I know you're busy as well. And the same, as much having a back seat, you're sort of away from everything and just chilling out, aren't you? So,
Trying.
But, really appreciate you coming down. And shout out to the subscribers and everybody as usual, for the support. And
like and subscribe. Comment down below.
Thank you.
We got the number one dog trainer in England.
Oh, you'll have him on your case.
But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Matt, like this story. Like you said,
I really enjoyed that.
I believed in him. I knew he could get through that, but he didn't. It's been a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll get you back on again if you can make it.
Rogan next.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Till the next time, guys. Thank you.